All right, so the last thing we went up to was the causes of the Great Depression. Okay, so remember the immediate cause was the stock market crash. Okay, so give a little background information, then we'll kind of talk about life during the Great Depression. Okay, you need to know that President Hoover was the president at the start of the Great Depression. Okay, you definitely need to understand that he believed in what's called rugged individualism. Okay, it connects very much so to this idea of laissez-faire or hands-off government. Okay, so he thinks it's not the responsibility of the government to help people suffering during the Depression. Okay, the government still believes at this point that these people need to pull themselves up. Okay, the government is not going to offer any handouts. Okay, at this point, the government does not realize how severe or how long these people are going to be in the Great Depression. All right, so with this one, you don't really need to write it down, okay, but understand what's going on. So we already talked about farmers were some of the people who went into the Great Depression first, okay? Prices of crop dropped. They could not afford to pay their mortgage, so we're going to talk about their farms are foreclosed on, okay? The bank literally repossesses their land, okay? People cannot afford luxuries, going to the movies, any entertainment, any new equipment or appliances. So factories aren't producing much, they're not needed, factories shut down, business closed. All of these are causing people to lose their jobs. Okay, we talked about banks cannot pay out money, banks are closing. People cannot pay their taxes, schools closed. Schools are a tax funded organization. Okay, due to this, most people are losing their jobs at this point, and many families become homeless and have to live in shanties. And we'll take a couple we'll look at a couple of those. Okay, so as you see, the unemployment rate severely drops at the start of the Great Depression. Okay, so again, here are several photos from the Great Depression. Men would often stand in line just at the opportunity to get work for a day. There were bread lines and soup lines just to give people all meal to get through the day. And this is a family going through the Dust Bowl, which we'll talk about in a little bit later. All right, so like I said, um, people waited in unemployment lines hoping for a job. We'll watch the movie Cinderella Man, and he goes to the docks every day just looking for a day's wages just to have some money to support his family. Okay, definitely know this term bread lines, and it literally means what it's saying. People would stand in line just to wait for bread just to sustain them for another day. A lot of people would relocate at this point, and many people were trying to go to California to kind of get away from the Dust Bowl and more economic opportunities. All right, so again, by 1933, right in the middle of the Great Depression, unemployment reached 25%. Okay, so basically, 1 in 4 people who were eligible to work did not have a job. That is terrible for the economy. Okay, so the term hobos, that those are people who are unemployed and homeless. Okay, so just a fun fact, I did not know where the term hobo came from, so I went and looked it up and tried to do a little research, and there really is no origin for the word hobo. But you need to know the difference between a hobo. I mean, you don't need to, but it's fun. Hobo is someone who can't work, they just don't have a job, like trying to find a job, just don't have a job. A tramp is somebody who works when they have to. So, like, just out of desperate need, they'll work if they have to. Other than that, they're kind of lazy. And a bum is just somebody who doesn't want to work at all. So very interesting. All these terms are kind of coming about this time. Hobos is the one you need to know. Just to kind of know that that's the word for homeless people. Okay. Again, with foreclosure, we talked about if you owe money to a bank and you can't pay it back, foreclosure, they'll close on your house, pretty much repossess your house, your farm, any of your property. All right. So Mr. Hoover passes the Smoot-Hawley tariff, basically a extremely high protective tariff. Again, to in this idea to protect U.S. industry. Okay, it would make imported goods even more expensive, okay? This turned out to be horrible for our economy because other countries passed high tariffs on our goods as well, so we could not trade to foreign markets, okay? So that in turn made our economy even worse. We continue to lose customers and places to sell to, so productivity in that industrial market dropped again. So this was very bad on Hoover. Already fairly an unpopular president, this just made it worse. Kind of to represent his unpopularity, some people who lived in these shanty towns, which you would literally build a shelter out of anything, they nicknamed him Hoovervilles. So it's kind of like a jab to a side, oh, you've done nothing for us, we're going to name our humble home after you. Again, different examples. So you see right outside the city, we talked about cities were impacted most. You see just these little shacks that people build out of literally anything for shelter. Effects of the Great Depression, again, there will be still some entertainment, trying to keep people just distracted from what's going on. The radio would still be an impact if people could still afford one. Movies, if you've seen Little Cute Shirley Temple, she came about during this time. Snow White, very interesting, came out during this time. Wizard of Oz, that plays a lot into the Populist Party. If you look back into it with the Gold Road and things like that, it's got a lot of hidden meanings to it, okay? And probably the most impactful one, the most one that's connected to this time period is The Grapes of Wrath. Kind of a slow book to read. I had to read that in high school, but it's about a family who's escaping the Dust Bowl and kind of their journey to California to work, to get jobs as a fruit farmer. But their journey was miserable, and how, people weren't willing to help along the way because they were suffering just as bad. One incident that is going to hurt Hoover continuously is going to be what's called the Bonus Army incident. I know someone asked this question a while back, like, were families compensated for fighting in World War One? Again, World War One veterans were supposed to get a bonus in 1945. Okay, the Great Depression hits and they need it now. So these veterans go to Washington and literally camp out outside of the White House. So Hoover sends in the army, and the army was just supposed to kind of, disperse them, kick them off the lawn, shoo them away, but instead they used tear gas, machine guns, and completely destroy the camp, so killing many of these veterans. This looks absolutely terrible on Hoover, that he would kill veterans who were just desperate for money. So Hoover continues to lose popularity at this time. All right, and then you need to know the Hoover Dam. So this is a federally funded project. The main purpose of it was to create jobs. And again, this is supposed to build back up that relationship. There's a lot of mistrust between the people in the government because they feel betrayed and they're not being helped. Okay. Main outcome of the Hoover Dam and what its purpose was to provide electricity and a water source. So when we're talking about a dam, it stops and builds up water, and then they can use that as a water supply source from there. All right, and we're going to stop there for right now.